Whipping like I run it from the cops. I ain't gotta worry about no ops. Young David, I stay with the rock. I'm blessed. All praise to the top. Whipping like I'm running from the cops. I ain't gotta worry about no ops. Young David, I stay with the rock. I'm blessed.
To the host with the most, no cap. Got a lot of love to show, and then with a double tap. On hearts, no space, love them all of my days. His thoughts are higher, gaining
All praise to the top. Whipping like I'm running from the cops. Shabbat Shalom, family. It's your boy Solemn Prophet here with Professor S. And we with the family again, coming another week. Bringing y'all this word, bringing y'all this information. How everybody doing?
Good.
Pretty good. Blessed.
Good to hear, good to hear. Hope everybody had a blessed week. Hold on, the hook coming back up. This is my stuff right here. Hold on 1 second.
All praise to the top. Whipping like I run it from the cops. I ain't gotta worry about no ops. Young David, I stay with the rock. I'm blessed. All praise to the top. Whipping like I'm running from the cops. I ain't gotta worry about no ops.
Hey, that's my jam right there, though. Straight up. Shout out to my brother Ayo. He was doing this thing.
Yeah, good stuff.
That was good. We enjoyed that.
Yeah, that song is called "I'm Blessed" by Ayo Ben Yahoo. If you ever want to look it up, it's on all digital platforms. That's my ock right there, man. We gotta link up. So, with that being said, family, you know we gotta give all praises to the Most High. You already know, got to give him the credit. He the reason we here. He inspires all of the commentary. He provides all the scripture, the lessons, everything. We would not be here without him. So we got to give him first and foremost all praises, worship, esteem, credit, kudos. If you can name it, then we can say it because he got it and he deserves
it all. He deserves it all.
Amen.
Absolutely. So with that being said, family, go ahead and give a shout out to everybody here on the panel. I really look, because people don't understand, like when you got a platform like this and it's predicated upon the message that you're giving, but also when people come and they participate, right? That participation is so key. So I do appreciate each and every one of y'all who come on a regular basis, those who come out and hang out with us for a week or two at a time. I do appreciate it. So that's why I always give shout outs, right? I know you probably watch the playbacks. I'm like, why he always giving shout outs to everybody on the panel and it's him and Professor S's show? Because I appreciate everybody that comes. And without y'all, it wouldn't be what it is. You feel me? So absolutely. Getting started off, I'm gonna hit my sis. Shabbat Shalom, Sister Andrea, Sister Andy, my newfound family. She told me I was a honorary Jamaican, by the way, y'all. So I'm excited about that.
You got to put our business out there like that. Shabbat Shalom.
Look, I'm geeked. You feel me?
You gonna start eating curry goat now?
I love curry goat.
Oh man, curry goat's great.
It's good. I make some good curry goat too.
Oh man, I gotta try it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Never had it.
Good stuff.
So Shabbat Shalom, Sister Andy. Shabbat Shalom, Brother Greg in the house. Right now, is it? You the only Greg in the house. One Greg. And there was one. Like Highlander. There can be only one. No, oh no, Marquita and them might come in here a little later on, and if they do, we'll have both Gregs on the block. But for right now, Shabbat Shalom, brother. Love you. Brother. Sorry about earlier. About yesterday. I think we went the whole day. We didn't even message. Normally we message and then catch up. But
yeah, I know.
No worries. We'll make it up.
Yeah.
My bad, bro.
My bad. Equal bad.
Shabbat Shalom, Sister Jasmine.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Tess and Cindy, my sisters.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
I love y'all.
Love
Shabbat
you.
shalom, brother Angel. Shabbat shalom, sister
Shabbat
Kaylee in
shalom,
the
everybody.
building.
Shabbat shalom.
Kaylee on the road right now. You know what I'm saying? Going to take care of some family, and she's still here. See, that's what I'm talking about. That dedication, y'all.
Dedication.
Dedication,
Yes,
bro.
sir. Yes, sir.
But yeah. And last but not least, you already know I got to give my co-host, brother from another mother, my A1 day one. Shabbat shalom, Professor S, my man.
Oh, man.
That's
Shabbat
it.
shalom. Love you, bro.
Yeah, I love you too, brother. Absolutely,
Professor
you already
Smart.
know.
The S stands
And
for
we
smart.
want to thank everyone for being on the panel. You know, everyone for being here. Just thank you. It's very good to have the input from other people. You know what I mean?
Facts. All right, so we're gonna get right into it. The Torah portion for this week. Genesis chapter 32 and 4. And that's going all the way through chapter 36. Wait, no. How did that happen?
Yeah, 36 through
Nope.
verse 43.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's this
right.
week's.
Yep.
I'm confused and I'm thinking of next week's. My bad. Yeah.
You're
Genesis
in-
chapter 32, verse 4 through 36 and 43. Hosea chapter 11, verses 7, all the way through Hosea chapter 12, verse 12. And then Obadiah chapter 1, verses 1 through 21. Matthew 26, chapter 26, verses 36 through 46. And Hebrews 11, verses 11 through 20. So we had a nice little amount to read this week. And I am not finish all of the reading this week. I was catching up and then got sidetracked. And now I can always read on the Sabbath. You know, it's the Sabbath. I can read the whole day if I want. And then Sabbath comes and then all of this stuff starts coming up. And
Exactly.
then shoot, we got Shabbat talk in 10 minutes. You know. So it keeps
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Not an excuse. Not an excuse, but absolutely I need to do better on the reading for sure. But Professor S, since you, sir, will be our fearless leader today, leading the lesson, of which I do not know what it is, by the way, y'all. I'm in the dark like y'all are. Professor S got something good for us. And since you're gonna be sharing your screen on that, do you want to get ready to pull up the video for the
I can, yeah.
the Parsha?
Yeah. Let me do that.
Because I don't have that. But in the meantime, in between time, I'll give y'all, while he do that, I'll give y'all my part of the Torah portion this week, my understanding. And with that, I'm going to share my screen because I found something interesting in the book of Hosea. Yep, that's right. Something interesting in the book of Hosea. Those of you guys who have either seen the video, any of the videos, or have done the study with me about the word of the Most High and who the word of the Most High is, then this is kind of gonna reflect that a little bit. But we had to read chapter 11 as a part of the Torah portion, specifically verses 7 through chapter 12, verse 12. But when I came in here, even though we were supposed to read verse 7, I saw in verse 1, 2, and 3 something interesting. And then it echoed again in verse 11. But let me see. Let me go to what kicked this off for me. So it's verse 11. Yeah, verse 11 right here. Okay. So what threw me off, well, not threw me off, but what caught my interest, caught my attention. It says, they shall tremble as a bird out of Egypt and as a dove out of the land of Assyria. And I will place them in their houses, saith the Most High. Right? Or if you read here, it says, it says that when you read the Lord, you go to the Most High. But remember, when you go to the beginning of the book, it says the word of the Most High that came unto Hosea. The word of the Most High that came unto Hosea. And then it continues and it says the beginning of the word of the Most High by Hosea. So the word of the Most High is talking to Hosea here. And we've confirmed over plenty of studies that this is the Messiah speaking. You can confirm that by John chapter 1, verse 14, where it says the word became flesh, because John chapter 1, verse 1 through 3 talks about the word being in the beginning, right? And so when I got this, I was like, okay, but if the Messiah is speaking here and there's parts of mention to the Most High in the third person, it just makes sense. Because if you're reading it as the Most High on everything, like, and my people are bent to backsliding from me. Who is this person saying my people? Who's my people? Who is this me? Right? And they called them to the Most High. None at all would exalt him. So the Most High is mentioned here separately in the third person. But then there's another person talking about some my people. My people. And one person might say, oh, well, that might be Hosea. We're in the book of Hosea, right? That could be Hosea speaking. But Hosea isn't speaking from him because we're not backsliding from a prophet. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm getting at is here in this one instance, you have two mentions of a celestial. The first mention is the Most High himself, right? That clearly stays clear as day to the Most High. So celestial, box checked. Cool. But then it also goes to, and it says, my people are bent to backsliding from me. That's also coming from a celestial perspective. However, if it was the Most High speaking himself, why would he have to mention of himself later in this verse in the third person? And it can't be by process of elimination. It can't be Hosea because ain't nobody backsliding from Hosea. So you got this is just further evidence of the Messiah being relevant and speaking here. Another thing I saw and noticed was because if you go back to verse chapter 2 and you read verse 16 and 17, it says, and it shall be at that day, saith the Most High, or the Lord, but we know that this is the Messiah speaking from verse 1 because it never changes from verse 1 to chapter 1 to chapter 2. So we're in chapter 2 right now. Thou shalt call me Ishi and shalt call me no more Bailey, for I would take the names of Balaam out of her mouth. Now look, if you go back to chapter 11 and go up to the top, it says sacrifice unto Balaam. So we see that theme continuing on here, right? Regardless of whatever name you call him the Messiah, I'm not getting into that right now. But I'm talking about just the evidence of Messiah being the one who is giving this information, because it doesn't make sense for anybody else to. Because it says, when Israel was a child, then I loved him and called my son out of Egypt. Okay, well, if Israel was a child and I loved him, okay, this could easily be the Most High, right? And he called his son out of Egypt. As they called him, so they went from them. They sacrificed unto Balaam and burned incense to graven images. I taught Ephraim also to go, taking them by their arms, but they knew not that I healed them. Again, this cannot be Hosea speaking from his perspective. It cannot be, because he didn't teach Ephraim. Ephraim came before Hosea. So we know it's not Ephraim. We know it's not Ephraim. I said Ephraim. We know it's not Hosea, right? And it's coming from a personal perspective, from a celestial perspective, because they're talking about it. But I'm going to show you how specific the scriptures are when it comes to who's speaking. Because, let me see, Hosea chapter 3. because let's go back to 1 real quick. In the first verse of the book, the first chapter of Hosea, it says, the word of the Most High that came to Hosea, son of Beeri, in the days of Uzziah, blah, 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 blah. Then it says, the beginning of the word of Hosea. Okay? So it's telling you who's speaking. Everything that's coming after this is the word of the Most High that came to Hosea. Now you go to verse 11. This is the end of the chapter. Nothing changed. Nothing came in to say that the dialogue has shifted from the word of the Most High to anyone else. Then you go to chapter 2. Let's go to verse 1. There's nothing here that is changing who's speaking. It's going all the way back down until you get to verse 16 and 17. And then it continues under this same context of who's speaking, this same dialogue. Hosea is passing on the message from the word of the Most High, which is the Messiah, to Israel. Now, this is why I hit Hosea chapter 3, because in Hosea chapter 3, you see a change. And it said, then said the Lord unto me, go, yet love the woman beloved of her friend, blah, 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 blah. And then it goes for whatever, 5 verses. 5 verses. And then you go to the next chapter. And then it goes back. Hear the word of the Lord. So it's specific. It's specific as to who's talking. Because everything from chapter 4, and I scanned, now we don't got to do this, but I scanned chapter 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 to make sure it all lined up. There was no, from verse 4 to 11, there's no breakage of dialogue. Everything that's being said is coming from the same individuals, unless it specifically tells you otherwise. And I found that interesting. So going back to where we actually are reading in the Torah portion, what verse was that? Oh no, that was the beginning. So this beginning part is what I was saying. But this was a part of last week's Torah portion. But that's kind of something that stood out to me, because I didn't go back to Hosea on purpose. This was just a part of this week's reading. And as I was reading that, I asked myself the question, why is it that we have evidence of whoever is speaking, hint, hint, whoever is speaking, but then you also have a mention of the Most High in the third person. But the context in which whoever is speaking can't be Hosea himself speaking from Hosea's perspective, because the way he's speaking of it, he's speaking from a omnipresent, place of authority. He's speaking from authority about whatever it is. So that's not Hosea. But then even though he's speaking from authority about his people, Israel, what they're doing and what they're not doing, there's still mention of the Most High in the third person. So there's a 3-way thing going on there. That's weird. Because if it was only the Most High, it should be a 2-way thing going on, or a 1-way thing going on. Because if Hosea is only saying what the Most High is telling him to say, then everything should come from the Most High's perspective. But you're seeing a difference of what's being said in the context. So I just thought that was interesting for me. But that's all I got. You want to go to the video?
Yeah, we can. One thing I wanted to note from the Torah portion was when it's going to go along with the study I've prepared. When Jacob sent all these gifts ahead of himself to Esau, and how initially Esau said, "I don't need these. I don't need these," and Jacob said, "No, look, take them." He said, "Take them. It's for you. You're my brother, and this is for you." Now, on the one hand, he might have been trying to butter him up in a way, because he knew that before he wanted to kill him, right? But on the other hand, he's he's saying, look, if you don't take this, then I'm not going to receive something as well. It's an interesting note there. But yeah, let me share the screen here real quick. Let's see. Let's see.
Share screen and then hit the share sound button at the bottom.
Okay, share sound. Yep, got it. All right.
On the Parsha in 60 seconds. Today's portion is from Genesis 32:4-36:43. It is called Vayishlach, which means "and he sent." As Jacob returned home, he sent many gifts ahead of him to butter up Esau. The messenger brought him news that Esau was coming to meet him, and Jacob was scared. He sent his entire family and everything ahead of him, and stayed behind for the night. Coward. That night, Jacob literally wrestled with God, who dislocated his hip. Jacob would not tap out until God blessed him. God renamed Jacob Israel, where he had striven with God and with men and prevailed. The next morning, Jacob was reunited with Esau, and Esau met the whole family. Jacob was in Shechem when his daughter Dinah caught the eye of the prince of the land, who forced himself upon her. The prince wanted to marry Dinah, but the brothers knew what had happened and told Shechem the prince that all the men must be circumcised. Shechem agreed. On the third day, the men of the city were in pain. Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, killed all the men and took Dinah out of the city. God told Jacob to move to Bethel, and while there, God blessed Jacob, who is now called Israel. Soon after, Rachel died, giving birth to Benjamin. Reuben lay with his father's concubine, but Israel found out. Jacob reunited with Isaac at Hebron. Isaac died at an old age of 180, and Esau and Jacob buried him. Esau moved away because they both needed more space. And that is Vayishla in 60 seconds.
Yeah, there we go. So, yep.
It's a lot. That was a lot.
A lot of stuff. Man. A lot of stuff going on. Hang on. Okay, so yeah, a lot in that, you know. Simeon and Levi going and killing everyone in Shechem, and plotting.
Savage.
This is crazy. And, you know, of course, a grown man who just got circumcised is not going to be in any kind of condition to fight. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's crazy. Lots of stuff in there. You know, Reuben laying with his father's concubine, which later on in the blessings in chapter 50 or 49, when you know Jacob is blessing all of his children, he says that Reuben, because he laid with his concubine, would not receive the blessing of the firstborn. You know, he wouldn't get all of the. You know, he disqualified himself basically. So you know that's another thing. There's just so much involved in it, you know. But then when Jacob and Esau actually meet and they see each other, they kiss each other, and they're like, oh man, I couldn't wait to see your face. You know, it's been so long, and they actually weep together and embrace each other and have a good little moment there. You know, because regardless of what had happened, they were still brothers. You know what I mean? Interesting stuff.
Absolutely. Anybody has something interesting they found in the Torah portion this week?
I guess
Sorry.
Oh, you can go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Greg, please.
Okay, just real quick. I was going to point out in Matthew wherein Hamashiach went to pray 3 times, and each time he came back, you know, the disciples were sleeping, but the way he prayed was, you know, to have that cup delivered from him, but not, he said have the cup delivered to him, but in Yah's will, like if it's his will to be done and not like his own will. Mm-hmm. So just like it helps us, you know, when we are praying to kind of have that type of prayer, like, you know, in his will instead of our own. Like if this is your will, like, can you do this for me? But like just how he prayed in that instance, something that stood out to me.
Absolutely, something that definitely take note and apply to our own prayer lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, and I'm going to go through that in this particular study tonight as well. If we get to it, I've got a lot to go over, but if we do get to it, that's something that we are going to go into about how, you know, we may think we know what's best for us, but we don't always know actually what's best for us. because we can't see the bigger picture. All we can see is we look with the natural eye, and we see what's in our radar screen, and we don't know what's outside of that. You know what I'm saying? So
Radar screen. That's an insider.
No.
Yeah, because like example of that is
command.
yeah. The example of that is I went to school for animation because I used to want to be a Disney animator, back in the day, watching like the old school cartoons, just love that.
Yeah.
But that never happened. And then, fast forward now, we all know what Disney is about and what they do. And imagine if I would have actually worked there, and then who knows, I could have been blinded by the stuff, took the shot, all that stuff, just because, oh, wait, I can't lose my job. Then all that woke, all that propaganda they're pushing in the movies and cartoons.
And you can end up being party to that. Yeah, and at the time, you probably would have thought that was the best course of action, right?
Yeah, because like it's my job, my livelihood. I've got to conform to what they say, and not gotten as deep with Bible and Scripture and and all that stuff. So yeah, that's an example of His will be done, and not He knew what was best for me.
Mm-hmm. Because He already knows what we need before we ask it. So,
amen.
Yep, all praises.
Mine is more of a question. I noticed, like, first Jacob tells them that he takes all their idols and then he puts it under the terebinth tree. And then when Deborah dies, she's buried under that terebinth tree. Like, was that symbolic to something, or was she like maybe did she worship another Elohim or idols or something like? I don't know. That stood out to me, but I'm just curious if it was symbolic to anything or has any significance, like to Deborah.
That's not anything that I've ever studied personally, so I don't know.
Okay.
It would be interesting to dive into that someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
I guess I'll go over a couple of other quick things. Is in Obadiah, where it says, the pride of your heart has deceived you. That's really big, because a lot of things we have to like follow your heart, especially a lot of cartoons follow your heart, but a lot of times the heart is deceitful. And
things.
Yeah, and that stood out to me in Obadiah, because especially today, like the pride in your heart, that's was being pushed out there versus listen to what Yah said. You got to repent and get delivered from your pride and heartful ways, because it's all it's sin most of the time. And Hebrews, this was like Sarah was able to conceive because of her faith and belief. Abraham was going to kill his only son because of his faith and belief. So it's like when we have true faith, we can believe in Yah. Is it's powerful having like true faith instead of doubt. Like, well, I don't know about that. But when we truly have faith, you can move a mountain.
Another great thing to bring up, Greg. Thanks a lot. Because faith is actually going to be one of the core things on this particular study I've assembled. So
look at that. That's
There's
2 for 2. You 2 for 2, bro.
Yeah.
I want to go back to who's that? Tess. I don't think it said she was buried under the same tree. Okay, so I see, unless we're talking about different verses, right? So I'm in chapter 35, verse 4. They gave to Jacob all the foreign gods. Fast forward. Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree that was near Shechem. And then fast forward to 8. And Deborah, Rebecca's nurse, died, and she was buried under an oak below Bethel. Are those the two you was talking about?
Okay, I have the Hallelujah scriptures, and in the Hallelujah scriptures, it used the same name, so that's why I have that question.
Yeah, definitely worth looking into.
Yeah. That's weird, because it takes even 2 different trees under mine. One says a terebinth, and then another one says oak. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Different versions. That's interesting, though.
Yeah, I read Hallelujah scripture too. It is interesting.
I have a Sefer. I'm gonna look it up in the Sefer. I have the Hallelujah and the Sefer a bunch of others. That is, yeah, I'm gonna look into that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna look into the Targum and see what the Targum say.
Yeah, I wonder what the original Hebrew word was for both of those. Like how you pull up and see if it's the same word or if it's different. That would be interesting.
That's easy. We can do that.
Yeah, just see what the Hebrew word for both of those verses are. If it's
It's 33. That's 30. So you said 35, right?
Yeah. Verse 4 and then verse 8.
Keita, are you using the KJV?
No, I read from the ESV. But now that I'm reading in between, verse 5 said they had moved on. So he hid him under a tree, and then they talked about they journeyed. He went to Luz and some other places, and then Deborah died.
And they delivered into Jacob's hand all the idols of the people which were in their hands, which they had taken from the temple of Shechem, and the jewels that had been in the ears of the inhabitants of the city of Shechem, in which was portrayed the likeness of their images, and Jacob hid them under the terebinth that was near to the city of Shechem. Then, the next verse says, and they journeyed from thence, offering praise and prayer before the Most High. And there was a tremor before the Most High upon the people of the cities. And then scroll down, and Deborah, the nurse of Rebekah, died and was buried below Bethel in the field of the plain. So this one doesn't even talk about the tree. It just says she died and was buried below Bethel in the field of the plain. So interesting, though. Interesting.
What is the set for? Was that? Cindy? No, that was Tess.
No,
right?
that's Tess.
That's Tess.
I think what the best thing to do is, like you suggested, Greg, go back and look up the Hebrew words and see what the meanings are, and follow that trail and see where it takes me.
Okay.
Because I do know, like, I was actually looking at, one time different, the different versions of the Bibles and some of that stuff, and something that was interesting is like specifically at the NLT, NIV, and even the ESV. There were some scriptures that they left out, like you go like 1, 2, 3, 4, it left out 3, or the NIV and NLT actually completely changed some of them. It was just, I was like, I wonder, what for that they actually take out the verse completely, or is it some reason why they, justification of doing it?
What?
Right, I'm just doing that.
Yeah, there's some verses that's not compared to KJV and an ESV. You will see there, and I'll have to find it, but there's some scriptures that's actually taken. It's not in the ESV. It's actually, if you see like 1, 2, it actually 1, 2, and 4. It totally leave out 3 for some of them. I'll have to find it though.
Hold on. We might be on to something, sis.
Oh.
Genesis 35 and 4. Under the oak. It's translated as oak in the NASB, but it's the word terebinth. Terebinth. Terebinth.
Terebinth.
Transliteration Eli, a definition, a terebinth. So I'm guessing it's a type of tree. It's translated as Eli 3 times, oak 11, and terebinth twice. Clear distinction derives from divine, but compared to the lack of clear distinction. Terebinth, Pistacia, Terebinthus, Decidius, Decidos tree with pinnate leaves and red berries, occasional in Palestine, grows to great age, always of single tree near Shechem. Okay, cool. And the last one was verse 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
Verse 8. Nurse died and was buried below Bethel under the oak. It's 437 and oak. Come on. All right, here we go. Alone and oak. And called the Oak of Weeping. No seemingly connection to the one in verse 4. Because this is 437. The Hebrew word is alon. And previously, in verse 4, the Hebrew word was 424. And it was Elah. So alone is verse 8 and Elah is verse 4. So they are not connected.
Thank you for looking that up.
Yeah, no problem. I hadn't even that hadn't even ever occurred to me. So it's good that I know now.
Yeah.
But it goes back to translation because ours doesn't give any indication that it was the same tree at all. But hers apparently does, which weird.
Perhaps it's some type of maybe one of them is more of a like one of them specific and the other is like a general, like a coniferous tree, or as opposed to this is a spruce pine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think both of them are oak trees. But there's different kinds of oak trees. Because they both said oak. Even in the NASB translation, they both were translated as oak, but the Hebrew word form were differently. One verse 8, it was like I guess the general term for oak, but then verse 4 was a specific kind of oak, the terebinth, that only grows in that geographical area near Shechem. So
I'm glad this question was brought up for your historical purpose of watching this. As people who watch this, they see that this is how you study. From a single word to like a tree, it seems meaningless, but it could have. What if it was the same tree?
Mm-hmm.
We know a lot of stuff in the Old Testament happens not by happenstance, but with a deep purpose. So, this is how you study. So it's really good to point that out.
Absolutely. Because think about it. If you had to do a little bit of digging to see what kind of tree it was, imagine what kind of digging you got to do to see who's speaking or what's a deeper, spiritual meaning and matter, especially if you're talking about the topic of something which would be considered a salvational issue. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Translation. What was the root? Yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody else for the Torah this week?
Look, I'm gonna say this. I was listening to it while preparing the meals for the Sabbath yesterday, and it kept going to other chapters, and I was like, "Is this the Bible? This sound like a whole audiobook. This is getting good." It talked about Dinah, and she was raped, and then, well, in so many words, but then he wanted her as a wife, and then the brothers came up and was like, "Yeah, you can have her for a price," and then I'm not even gonna give it to you. Like this is getting good. Keep going, Bible. Like.
Okay, wait, one more thing. I'm actually looking at the Hallelujah scriptures. And so it says, the idols, the earrings and stuff, that was buried under the terebinth tree, which was near Shechem. And then when it comes to Deborah, she was buried in the terebinth tree near Bethel. So it was two different locations. But the same name for the tree, but so oak tree, two different locations. So that actually helps kind of. One was Shechem, one was Bethel. How far those places are, if you look at a map, like what they're called today. But that's what it said in the Hallelujah scriptures.
Interesting.
Those two different locations, yeah.
Definitely interesting. Well, all right then, family.
Cool.
Got through the Torah portion. We ain't even hit the hour mark yet. Give yourselves a round of applause. No, just kidding. So now, like I said, I'm in the dark with y'all. I don't know what Professor S about to bring up, but studying with Professor S. I ain't have a topic to put up there, so we just studying with Professor S.
There's only something like PBS, like studying with Professor S.
Yeah, you already know. That's how I did it.
Yep. Studying with Professor S. So, this is a topic that I believe will, if you properly grasp it and understand it, and know about it, as well as utilize it for the right reasons, right? Then it will. I think it will absolutely change everyone's life. It's very profound. This is something I've studied out on multiple occasions, but I've never actually. I've done it just for my own personal benefit, so I've locked it all in here and never actually wrote it down or anything like that. So I decided I was going to actually, sit down and write out a study for it, right? And as I was doing that, it ended up being a lot longer than I initially anticipated. So this is probably going to be, a 2 or 3 or maybe 4-part study, right? But we'll go on and get into it, not to leave anyone in the dark. I don't know exactly what to title this at this point, but maybe the two kingdoms, or faith. It's about faith and the two kingdoms that are simultaneously here on this earth, and how to activate the one kingdom to move out of it into how to activate one kingdom to move out of the one and into the other, right? So, I've got a ton of notes and a lot of reading. I hope no one minds reading a ton of scriptures. So, first thing, and this is something everyone should ask themselves individually, is, do you really, really believe that Elohim can absolutely change your life regardless of any circumstance or situation that you're in, right? Do you really believe that? Because as we go through scripture, we see, miracles definitely happened, right? But in every single instance of a miracle taking place, there was something that a man or woman had to do. A human being had to do something in order for that miracle to take place. It wasn't like it just automatically happened, right? We have to be believing in miracles happening, right? You have to really, truly believe in order for a miracle to take place. And I got a couple examples of that. One is Matthew 8:5-13. And I could have made an exhaustive list, but I decided, for the sake of brevity, to keep it to a couple examples. But let me share this real fast, just to show everyone. And this right here is the NIV version. This is just what came up, but any version will give a similar account. When Messiah had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help, saying, Master, he said, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. Messiah said to him, shall I come and heal him? The centurion replied, Master, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes. And that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Messiah heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, truly, I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom of heaven will be thrown outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then Messiah said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done to you as you believed it would." And his servant was healed at that very moment. So at that very moment, he said, "Let it be done to you as you believed," right? So as the centurion believed, not, it's based on his belief, his faith, right? When you have total and complete faith, it really changes things, because it shifts you from one kingdom of corruption, despair, doubt, into the kingdom of Elohim, where you have everything provided for you, right? Another example, I'm gonna, instead of sharing the screen, I'm just gonna go in and read it off of my Bible app, just because it'll save time. This is a fairly long study. Another example is Matthew 9:28 through 30. So Matthew 9. Uh, 28 through 30. And when he was come unto the house, the blind man came to him, and Yahusha said unto him, "Believe ye that I am able to do this?" They said unto him, "Yea, Master." Then touched he their eyes, saying, "According to your faith be it done unto you." And their eyes were opened. And Messiah straightway charged them, saying, "See that no one knows it," right? So because of their faith, right? Because of their faith is why they were healed in that situation. That's why that miracle was able to take place. There's other instances of, multiple times. I mean, when the woman with the issue of blood come and touched Messiah's garment, he what did he tell her? He told her, "Your faith has made you whole," right? He was just a conduit through which that she received that. And that's, I don't want anyone to feel like that's taking away from the power of Elohim, because he is all powerful. But in the beginning, he chose to delegate his authority over the earth to man, right? And once he gave that to Adam, right, it would be a violation of his own laws to take it back, even though Adam had screwed up, right? So that's why every miracle throughout the whole Bible involved a person doing something, right? And it involved action. Biblical faith and belief it's basically, it's not like in the Greek mindset, it's to intellectually believe something, right? To intellectually understand and accept it as truth, right? But in Hebrew, it is a more action-oriented thing. Hebrew is a very action-oriented language just in itself, because virtually every Hebrew word has a verb root that it comes from. So it all goes back to an action, a verb, right? But the Hebrew concept of belief is based on action, right? Actions determine if a miracle can or will happen. Every single miracle throughout the entire Bible involved the actions of a man or a woman, right? And this is part of the reason that we need to hide his word in our hearts, right? As we get further into the two kingdoms, right? And we see where these kingdoms are. Luke 17:21 says the kingdom of Elohim is within, right? It's within us, right? And what we have to do is we have to take the kingdom that's within us and bring it out into the world, right? Like with Messiah's prayer, the Lord's Prayer, where he says, "Your kingdom come," right? He's trying to bring we've got to bring the kingdom of Elohim into this world, right? And Psalm 119:11 says, your word have I hidden in my heart that I may not sin against you, right? So by doing that, by bringing the word and really internalizing it into our hearts, then we can bring the kingdom forth into this realm, into this cursed system that we're in. And to understand the power of this, right? It's if you didn't know anything about electricity, right, and you went into a room, it doesn't matter how many light switches or what appliances were in there. If you didn't know about electricity, you didn't know how to use it, how to flip a switch, you would never have access to that power that's there that you could easily access by flipping a switch or pressing a button. If you didn't know how or know about it, then it wouldn't happen, right? So, likewise, we have to become aware of the power that we've been given the tools to use, right? And then I'm going to go into one of the most profound and powerful of those tools. So, seeds multiply of themselves, right? If you plant a seed, it multiplies. And we know from Messiah's words in Galatians and multiple places in Scripture, it says we're always going to reap what we sow, right? If we plant a seed, it's going to grow, right? And whether that's seeds of corruption and wickedness or seeds of righteousness and goodness, right? So the two kingdoms, right? The two kingdoms, when Adam was first created, he was placed in the Garden of Eden, and all of his provision was met, right? He did have to tend the garden, right? But it wasn't drudgery, it wasn't laborious work, right? It was for minimal joyful effort, no less, not even just effort in general, but joyful effort, something that was fun. I don't know if anyone's ever had a garden. Pruning your garden can be very very pleasing, right? It can be very pleasing to go through and look at, and clip the different things and stuff, and watch it grow, and it's minimal effort to just prune a garden. Now, digging up soil and fighting off blocking off animals that are going to try to eat it and things like that, that can become labor intensive. But to actually just sit there and clip off things and watch how the plants grow and stuff, it's not very labor intensive. You know what I'm saying? So the kingdom of Elohim, i.e. the Garden of Eden, where all our provision comes with only minimal and joyful effort on our part. But then we also have the earth curse system, of which Satan is the god, where we must toil and labor for all that we get, right? When Adam was expelled from the garden, he had to work. He had to work by the sweat of his brow. He was to eat, right? Till the ground, that's very labor intensive. It's not the most pleasurable activity. And in order to be able to eat and survive, that's what he had to do, right? Whereas before, in the Garden of Eden, everything was already provided for him. All he had to do was some minimal activity, right? So those are the two kingdoms. And the whole purpose, the whole goal for us is to get back to the kingdom of Elohim, where everything is supernaturally provided for us, right? Now, faith requires action, but it is minimal action, right? It's not it's not super intensive. Faith is activated by action. And without action or works, faith is dead. That's James 2:26. We've spoken on that quite a bit, so I'm not going to read that verse. But James 2:26, we have covered that a lot. Faith without works is dead, or faith without action is dead. Now, I'm going to share something real fast. Let me pull it up real quick, because this is key. This is really key. Hang on a second. Let's see. Is it not coming up really? So I had this before. Let me find it real quick. Okay. And then I'll share the screen here. Hang on a sec. So right here, this is the word of faith, right? It's noun, feminine. It goes pistis, I guess is how you would pronounce it. I'm not sure. So it's used as faith, belief, trust, confidence, fidelity, and faithfulness, right? As we come down here into the lexicons, conviction of the truth of anything, belief in the New Testament or the NT of a conviction or belief respecting man's relationship to Elohim and divine things, generally with the included idea of trust and holy fervor born of faith and joined with it, releasing to Elohim the conviction that Elohim exists and is. So that's Thayer's definition. Strong's persuasion, that is credence, moral conviction of religious truth or the truthfulness of Elohim or a religious teacher, especially reliance upon Messiah for salvation. Abstractly, constancy in such profession, by extension, the system of religious truth itself, assurance, belief, faith, fidelity. Now, faith, faithfulness, belief, trust, with an implication. Now, this is something I'm going to highlight here. With an implication that actions based on that trust may follow. The faith often referred to the Christian system of belief and lifestyle. Okay, but here's what I really wanted to hit home. With an implication that actions based on that trust may follow. So faith is a lot more than simply a mental acknowledgement of something, right? It is very action oriented. In Hebrew, the word for faith means to support or lift up or hold up, right? Like a support structure, a support pillar in a house or building. So when we get that understanding, we realize that by its own definition, faith requires action. So when James says faith without works is dead, he's literally saying you don't actually have faith if you're not doing something based on it. Because that's what the definition of faith is that you will do something based on it, right? Otherwise, it's just simply something that you acknowledge, right? You can acknowledge anything, but unless you're actually willing to take some type of action regarding it, then it's useless to even make the acknowledgement, right? I could acknowledge that the dishes need to be washed and that the sink is full of dishes, dirty dishes, but if I don't go in and wash those dishes, then what good was it to say, yeah, they need to be cleaned, you know? It does nothing. So it's more than a simple acknowledgement, right? So taking action is important. Neuroscientists have discovered that if you make a decision but don't take some type of action within 48 hours, it causes a short circuit in your brain that actually makes your brain begin to produce counterproductive actions that will begin to make you fail at anything that is related to that decision. So, taking action is very important, even if it's a very simple action. When you make a decision to do something and you don't take action, it causes a short circuit in your brain, and then your subconscious mind in the background will start causing you to do things that will prevent the attainment of what you had initially decided. And so once again, that's just another illustration of how faith without works is dead, right? Now, how to activate faith, because faith requires an action, right? And faith is all about support, being supported, right? If I go to sit into a chair, right, I am trusting that chair has the ability to support me, to hold me up, right? If I flip a light switch, I expect the lights to come on, right? Because that's how it works, right? If you flip a light switch, it connects the circuit, and then the light comes on, right? And it doesn't require any. It doesn't even require any thought on my part. When I see a chair to go and sit down into it, it doesn't require me to have this tremendous amount of faith. It's just as simple as, oh, there's a chair, let me sit in it, right? Or there's a light switch on the wall and the light needs to be on, let me flip it up, But yet we do all those things all the time and then have a tendency not to believe that our Elohim can support us, right? Can lift us up and hold us up. And the way to truly activate faith.
I'm so sorry to cut you off. I just want to do a sound check. Is that just me?
What's that?
Just your sound sounds bad. I just want to make sure it's not just me.
No, he's clear to me.
Anyone know?
I can hear him just fine.
Oh man.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Okay. So you can't hear me that well?
It might be just me then. Go ahead.
Okay. So to get into faith, the action, in order to be supported, you have to relinquish. You have to relinquish what you feel, what the physical mind, the carnal mind believes is supporting you. Because the carnal mind cannot discern the spiritual things, right? And if we want supernatural provision to get out of the enemy's kingdom in this cursed system of the earth, and into the kingdom of Elohim, where all and everything is provided for us with only minimal effort on our part, then we need to have the key to unlock that, right? We feel as though having things, having food, clothing, shelter, money is what's sustaining us, right? But we have to recognize and understand that none of that is really sustaining us, because where does it come from? And then the source of that is actually what's sustaining us. And Elohim is the source of every good and perfect gift that we have, right? So he is actually the one sustaining us. And the only way to truly activate our faith and belief in him is to relinquish the things that we believe are sustaining us, right? To activate faith, you have to step out on a limb and do something that's uncomfortable to the flesh, right? You have to do something uncomfortable to the flesh, something that feels like a sacrifice, right? So when Elohim gave us a commandment to make sacrifices, right? It's not like he needed us to do that, right? He doesn't gain anything from that, and we know that all of the commandments are for our benefit. So, what benefit do we actually receive energetically by doing a sacrifice like that? You know, back then, wealth wasn't measured in terms of financial money and monetary gain and so forth. Wealth was, you know, how much crops did you produce this year? How much livestock do you have? You know what I'm saying? That's what wealth was back then. In fact, if you go and look at the tithe, it talks about that stuff. You read about tithing, and it talks about bringing the first of your cattle, and the best of your cattle, and your crops, right? So that's what and that's what wealth was back then, right? Money did exist back then, but it was not as important to whether or not someone had a status of being wealthy or not, right? Abraham was extremely wealthy. Jacob was extremely wealthy. And what made Jacob so wealthy was all the livestock that he accumulated. And then he went to go and give so much of that to Esau, like a ridiculous amount. Like in today's terms, the amount of cattle and livestock that Jacob was trying to give to Esau would be like millions of dollars. It would be like if I come to someone and said, "Here, let me give you millions of dollars. Here's a briefcase full of $100 bills." You know what I'm saying? That would be the modern day equivalent of that, right? So when you recognize that that's what wealth was then, and that's what Elohim was telling us to give to him, right? Not for his benefit, because he doesn't need it, right? It's for our benefit. Because by relinquishing that, by releasing the feeling of the fear of lack, right? If you the only real reason you wouldn't want to relinquish that is because you feel like once you've given it away, you no longer have it, and now you lack something, right? And it's the fear of lack that is virtually the opposite of faith, right? Whatever that lack is, not necessarily even a physical thing, but like time, right? Like someone who doesn't have enough time to do everything that they want to do, right? It can be anything like that, right? So with that, tithing is super, super, super important. Tithing and giving, right? Going through the scriptures, I found so many examples of how this needs to be done, and in most of those examples, as a matter of fact, it even tells you why it needs to be done, because it's going to benefit you in the long run, right? Going through, I found Tobit. I'm going to go in and read this from Tobit. Very interesting excerpt here. Let me find it real fast. It's Tobit 4, 7 through 11.
While you look for that, I just want to quickly chime in here.
Yeah.
Y'all heard what this man said? Was y'all listening? Like, did y'all hear what he said? Like, I want to go back to your example of faith, right? And how we have faith in stuff that we just know is going to come through and work for us. Like, we don't even give a thought. That's how much faith we have. We don't even give a thought to it. Mm-hmm. Flipping a light switch, sitting down in a chair. Like, we don't sit down in the chair unless we probably like extremely overweight and it's crickety, right? We worried about the chair giving out underneath us. But for the most part, you go and you sit down in the chair. When you go out to a restaurant, when you go to wherever you may go, you ain't thinking about, is this chair gonna support me? You pretty much, you're assured that that chair is gonna support you. So much so that if somebody sits down and they actually go through the chair and the chair breaks, then everybody's surprised. They're shocked. And some people might laugh, but even in laughter, you're surprised that that chair broke like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the Most High, we don't have that type of faith, right? We know that light switch is going to click on. And when we go there, we hit that switch and the light doesn't come on. Now we know something's wrong because, and look, here's the process that we go through in our minds. Is the power out? Is something going on that is preventing this light switch from kicking on? So we going to the breaker. We're checking the breaker. We're going around the house and we checking other light switches, seeing if they work. Did the bulb go out? We checking the bulb. But most of the time, we checking everything else but that switch itself. The figuring out if it's the switch itself is probably the last step in the troubleshooting process, right? So our faith in that switch is crazy because we're willing to check the house, we're willing to check other lights, the light bulb, all kind of stuff, but not the switch itself, right? That's the last thing we check. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the Most High, we don't have that kind of faith. We need to have faith in the Most High, like we know for a 100% fact that He is going to move on our behalf in every single situation. Mm-hmm. Faith has been a big topic the last couple months of us here on this channel. And you mentioned something else really interesting about the fear of lack. Having the fear of not having whatever it is, and it don't have to necessarily just be money, but that fear of lack is the thing that's holding a lot of us back from receiving that blessing that the Most High wants to give us. Mm-hmm. If we can just get over the hump and get over that fear of lack, we'll be in situations where we never have to want for anything.
And that's why giving away what you want is actually the best way to get more of it, because it automatically releases that fear of lack. Mm-hmm. You automatically relinquish that fear of lack whenever you give away what you're trying to attain, what you want, right? I'll go and read the Tobit and then something from Ecclesiasticus as well, right? So in Tobit, chapter 4, verse 7 through 11, it says, give alms of thy substance. Now, here's an interesting thing too. Before I keep going, I'm going to talk on money, because substance, back in the day, like I said, substance was, what you had, your livestock, your crops, whatever increased your crops produced, right? Because you plant a seed in the ground. Let's say you plant a corn seed, right? You don't just get back one corn seed. You get a whole stalk with several ears of corn, and each of those ears of corn has dozens of seeds on it, right? And so it goes back to that. But see, what is money? What is currency, right? Why is it called currency, right? It's called currency because it's like a current, like a wave or an electrical current, right? It's energy. It's basically a representation of energy that's been expended either through physical labor or through, thoughts and solving problems of some kind, right? So money is actually energetically connected to you. The money that you have is connected to you because you have generated it in some way, right? In order to have money, you have to have generated that money in some way, shape, or form. So it's energetically connected to you, and that's why it's called a currency. But it also needs to flow. It can't. If you hold on to it, it becomes stagnant. It can't continue on and flow, and then you stop up the flow to you by hanging on to it. You know, it's all about that provision. We got brainwashed in this system that we live in, that hey, you need to go out and you need to find a way to make this, and you know. So not to get too far ahead of myself, I am going to cover this here in just a second, but statistically 90% of most people's decisions revolve around how to make money and how to keep it. 90% of the average person's decisions in a day revolve around how to make money and how to keep it. So we need to get out of that kingdom, that cursed system where we are trying to provide for ourselves. And the best way to activate that faith is to relinquish the very thing that we feel is holding us up and supporting us, right? The physical things that we think are supporting us, once we relinquish those, we no longer, we've given that substance of that part of our substance out, and it's able to flow, and it causes more to flow into us, right? Which I'm going to demonstrate with scripture here in just a moment. But let me read this from Tobit, chapter 4, verse 7 through 11. It says, "Give alms of thy substance, and when thou givest alms, let not thine eye be envious, neither turn away thy face from any poor, and the face of Elohim shall not be turned away from thee." Right? "If thou hast abundance, give alms accordingly. If thou have but a little, be not afraid to give according to that little. For thou layest up a good treasure for thyself against the day of necessity." Against the day of necessity. That's good stuff right there. "Because that alms do deliver from death, and suffereth not to come into darkness. For alms is a good gift unto all that give it in the sight of the Most High." Right? That's the thing right there. I'm going to read this again because this is very important. "For alms is a good gift unto all that give it in the sight of the Most High." So giving alms, although you think it's a gift to someone else, it's actually a gift to you. Because by giving it, you allow that flow to come into you even more. What's that?
I said facts.
Yeah.
Let me give a live example, firsthand example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, this was, I want to say, May time frame during the time where I was unemployed, right? But this was the last month of where my savings was. We have 1 month left of savings, so all our bills and everything, right? And I had generated, I want to say it was like $564 over a short period of time from my music sales that had accumulated and came in, all my music royalties. And the Most High had been putting on my heart to go and feed the poor for a while. And I had made up my mind that money that I got from the music, I wanted to allocate that to give to the poor. And when we made our last payment to pay all the bills, and I didn't have anything else left in the account, like we didn't know where our next month's rent was going to come from. I looked at that money different. The flesh in me looked at that money like, well, I did want to give that money to the poor and feed the poor, but now that's all I got. And I shrugged that thought off. I rebuked that thought, and then we went ahead and we did it. So we bought some meals for the homeless. We went and we fed them. I'm not saying that just to highlight feeding the homeless, but what I'm saying is that was about $564 and some change that went towards that cause, right? And then the very next month, when everything was due, we received fivefold, enough to pay the rent. And then shortly after that, we received another blessing that came in that we weren't expecting. That was about threefold the amount that we gave to the poor. And then shortly after that, by the next month that had came, I went back into the music account and saw that almost half of the money that I spent to give to the poor had reaccumulated into the account for the music royalties. So not only was given out of my lack, like you said, those who have little give according to what you have. Not only out of the lack, I can tell you firsthand that I've seen this actually play in real life, in real time, right? Only having the last little bit to your name, you give it away, you ended up getting blessed with way more than you gave out, and it took care of all of our needs. And I wasn't giving to the poor because I wanted my rent to get paid. I was giving to the poor because the Most High put it on my heart to do so, right? I wasn't expecting for my rent to get paid or my other bills to get paid or all the other blessings that came in from that, right? So I just want to highlight that because as he's reading these scriptures to y'all and he's giving these examples, this isn't just, a study that he put together. This is based off of true events and what you're tapping into with the two kingdoms. This right here, this is real. Yeah. This is 150% real.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because by relinquishing that, even though it was the last you had, right? By relinquishing that, you relinquished also the fear of lack. You know what I'm saying? And once you relinquish that fear of lack, then lack is no longer going to be coming at you, right? Because it's just like Job said when he had all these things happen to him. He says, the thing that I feared the most has come upon me, right? Because he was afraid of that. If you read in the beginning of Job, he was always offering sacrifices for his children because he knew that they were going astray and they weren't doing what they were supposed to. So he was worried about them and fearing for them. And then what happened? Everything he feared came upon him, right? So, that example from Tobit right there is really good. Another one here in Ecclesiasticus, and I could give so many more scriptures on this, but just for the sake of brevity, I'm going to just go through a couple here. It's Ecclesiasticus 12:3, and it says, "There can no good come to him that is always occupied in evil, nor to him that giveth no alms," right? So good can't come to someone who doesn't give alms, right? Very, very important key. And when giving, you have to understand, just like someone who doesn't understand electricity, they don't know if they flip the switch that the light's going to come on. They don't understand that if they turn the knob on the stove or press the button, that the oven's going to turn on, right? So they don't have access to that power because they're unaware of it, right? They're unaware. All they can see is with their natural eye. They can see this corrupted, cursed world that we're in, and that's all they can see. But we are supposed to live. We're supposed to walk by faith and not by sight. So there's a couple keys to being able to truly release the power of giving, right? And I've put some scriptures to each of these, but the first is to give joyfully. Whenever you're giving, do it joyfully and cheerfully, right? And 2 Corinthians 9:6-12, I'll go on and read that, is where scripture says that, right? 2 Corinthians 9:6-12. It says, "But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully." Right? "Every man according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity." So you don't do it because you feel like you have to, like you're being required to, right? And not of necessity, for Elohim loveth a cheerful giver. And Elohim is able to make all grace abound toward you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. Right? As it is written, he hath dispersed abroad, he hath given to the poor, his righteousness remaineth forever. Now, he that ministereth seed to the sower, both ministereth bread for your food, and multiply your seed sown, and increase the fruit of your righteousness, being enriched in everything to all bountifulness, which causeth through us thanksgiving to Elohim. For the administration of this service not only supplieth the want of the saints, but is abundant also by many thanksgivings unto Elohim. Right? It is very, very important that when you give, which is what activates your faith, because you can say all day you believe that Elohim is going to provide for you, but if you're not willing to relinquish what you believe is sustaining you and let him have control, then you don't really have faith. True faith is to be able to let go, right? So the first key is to give joyfully, right? The second key is to give without anyone knowing, right? And the scripture for that is Matthew 6, 1 through 4. So we'll go to that real fast. And it says, take heed that ye do not your alms before men to be seen of them. Otherwise, ye have not reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou dost give thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou dost alms, let not thine left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. So, the second key is do it with as few people as possible knowing that you're doing it. You know, in other words, don't brag about it and say, "Oh, look, you see all the time these companies talking about, oh, look, we gave so much money to this particular charity. Look how much money we gave." And then when you really look at their balance sheet for their company, you find they spent more money on the advertising to let you know what they gave than they actually gave. You know what I'm saying? They say, "Oh, look, we gave $100,000. We gave $100,000 to help this organization, the diabetes organization, or whatever the case is," right? But then you go and look, and they spend $10 million on ads to blast it everywhere and say how great they were. You know? And it's like
super effects.
Yeah.
That bothers me. I hate it. Like, you see those YouTube videos or them TikToks and Instagrams or whatever, and you see the people, and they go around and they do these amazing things, right? They're giving money, they're feeding people, they're going up and helping the homeless and all of that, but they're doing it to record it so that they can get seen.
Exactly.
And they're getting the what they call it, the clicks or the views,
the subscribes.
And like, you think about it, like if they're a pretty big YouTuber, let's just say YouTube, for example, and they got 500,000 subscribers, and they put out a video, on average, you're going to get about half the amount of views that your subscribers have for the bigger pages. So that's automatically 250,000 people that's watching it on at least. But if it's a captivating video, nice little message, you might get about 500,000 people watch it. 500,000 people watching it, that one video is paying you more than whatever you provided. And then and a lot of these stuff is, oh, here's $20. And then the homeless person is crying and gives them a hug, or $100, or they go into a restaurant and pay for someone's meal, something like that. Like it cost them like $100-$200 for that video, and they making $10K.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You see what I mean? They making $10K off of that. That's not the point. Like the point of doing good should not be so everybody can see what you're doing. Like you said, like it. Yeah. So when I see those types of videos and people be so moved by them, I just be like, bro, I can't.
I'll tell you one thing. I think the one instance in which doing charity work, I think it's not wrong to let people know is if you're a charitable organization and people are donating to you, because you want your donors to know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So that they feel comfortable saying, okay, yeah, I'll continue donating to you. You know what I'm saying? But then in that case, you want all of that going right back out. You want it to be flowing through you. You want to be used as a conduit for that to go through you rather than to just say, oh, look how great I am. You know what I'm saying? Which is the point that Messiah was making is, the hypocrites in the synagogues and in the streets, they're always blasting a trumpet saying, bah, 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 look what I'm doing, and that's no good. That's no good, But that's the second key is give without anyone knowing, or with as few people as possible knowing, right? Obviously, there's some people that need to, if you want to give to a homeless shelter, you're going to have to go and talk to one of the employees so they're going to know, you know what I'm saying? But you want it to be as few people as possible to know that you're doing it. You want to do it in secret, And then third, after you give, pray in private, right? Pray in private. What that gift meant as far as what you did, right? You're going to pray in private that gift is used to the best of its potential, right? And praying in private, that's the next couple verses, as a matter of fact. So it says, and when you prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray, standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to the Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. And those verses actually, I would say they're not unrelated, because 5 and 6 seems to be very much related to 1 through 4, right? Talking about giving alms and then going to pray, and the reward that you receive openly, right? Next, the fourth key is you should expect and believe that you will get a return, but not from the person to whom you gave, right? You should expect to have a return. Not that that's the sole purpose for doing it, but you should still expect to have a return. And 2 Corinthians 12:9, we'll go into that real fast. Because, we do need to expect to get a return from any offerings we give, right? And he saith unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Wait, is that the right one? Oh, nope, wrong.
I can't hear anything.
Sorry.
It's just my phone.
What's that? Can you hear now?
Sister Andy, what you say?
Can you hear Annie?
Oh no. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. That was the wrong one. That was for the next one, but it's 1 Corinthians 3:6-9, and it says, "I have planted, Apollos watered, but Elohim gave the increase." Right? So then, neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but Elohim that giveth the increase. Right? So even though you may expect a reward from your giving, don't expect it from the person that you gave it to. Right? So in other words, don't go in and donate to someone thinking, oh, well, if I donate to them and, whenever something happens, then they'll come back and give me some too. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to give to someone expecting them to return the favor, right? Because it doesn't usually work that way. You know what I'm saying? But then he says, now he that planteth and he that watereth are one, and every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are laborers together with Elohim. Ye are Elohim's husbandry. Ye are Elohim's building. All right. So then the next key, the fifth key, is release any attachment to receiving a reward. So even though you expect to receive one, let go of any attachment to receiving it. Right. Let go of that attachment and say, even if I don't receive a reward, it's okay. I'm glad that I was able to do it in the first place. You know what I'm saying? And that is actually 2 Corinthians 12:9. So 2 Corinthians 12:9, we'll go back to it. And it says, and he saith unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Messiah may rest upon me. Right? So you don't want to, you let go the attachment to having any reward for what you've done. Right? And then you feel good even if you never get what you're wanting. Even if you never get it. Even if you never get what you want, you still feel good about it. And I'm going to read Matthew 6:25 through 34, because I believe this is very key to that. So in Matthew 6:25 through 34, it says, therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Behold, the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they? Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit to his stature? And why take ye thought of raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you, that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Wherefore, if Elohim so clothed the grass of the field, which is today, or today is, and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? Therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of Elohim and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for tomorrow, for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Right? So, with these keys, give joyfully, give without anyone knowing. After you give, go and pray in private. Expect and believe that you will get a return, but not from the person or organization or group of people that you gave to. And then release any attachment to receiving the reward. So, and then feel good even if you never get what you expected to get, right? Very important keys there to releasing faith, to accessing the power of faith, because faith is what actually gives us power. So you want to give what is the hardest to give. So for a lot of people, that's money, right? Because, like I said, money is energetically connected to you because you expended energy in order to gain that money, right? Back to that statistic, 90% of most people's decisions revolve around how to make money and how to keep it. When we are thinking about that, we block ourselves from receiving because it is coming from a place of lack and lack of faith, in other words, right? So now we can either provide for ourselves within the cursed system, and some people can, I mean, if people work hard, they can do something, right? They can gain things by working hard, right? Or we are supernaturally provided for by releasing the kingdom of Elohim, right? Proverbs 19:17. This is very good. This was something that kind of blew me away when I was putting together this study. This became like a whole separate study on its own, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it's very profound. So Proverbs 19:17, it says, "He that hath pity upon the poor," and other versions say, "give to the poor," or "He that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Most High, and that which he giveth will he pay him again." Right? So it says, what you give to the poor, the person who gives to the poor is lending to the Most High, and the Most High will pay you back again. That's what Scripture says, right there. Right there, it says that. So now, anything that you want, whether it's money, food, time, a home, furniture, a car, etc., give it away first, and then you'll have it. You get to have your cake and eat it too, right? Now, why? What's the one thing that Elohim said to test him on? The one thing Elohim said to test him on. He said to test him. It's in Malachi 3:10. And it says, "Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in thine house, or in mine house, and prove me," or test me, "now herewith, saith the Most High of hosts, if I will not open to you the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough for you to receive it." Right? And that's the one thing that Elohim says to test him on, is to have the faith to give away, to give to him. And we've got Luke 6:38 I'm going to read here too. And then as we come down a little bit further, I'm going to dig more into what Proverbs 19:17 had to say. But we're going to go to Luke chapter 6, verse 38. It says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give unto your bosom. For with the same measure that ye meet withal, it shall be measured to you again." Okay? Just good stuff. And this is all through Scripture. When I give these 2 or 3, usually 2, just for the sake of time, but when I give these 2 or 3 scriptures to go along with what I've said, it's I could have given probably 8 or 9 or 10 for each of these points. You know what I'm saying? And then Paul even said he had abundance. And this comes from Philippians. We'll read that in a second. But Paul said that he already had abundance, but he still accepted gifts, not because he needed them, but because he wanted the people giving them to receive the blessing and reward that they would get for giving it. Right? And that's Philippians 4:15 through 19. I'll read that real fast. Now ye Philippians know also that in the beginning of the gospel, when I departed from Macedonia, no church communicated with me as concerning giving and receiving, but ye only. For even in Thessalonica ye sent once and again unto my necessity, not because I desired a gift, but I desired fruit that may abound to your account. Because Paul understood this. He says, Paul understands from reading scripture that if you give, Elohim is going to give back to you. That you're basically releasing all of this energy that's going to have to come back because it's a universal law that Elohim put into place. That if you release this, it's going to have to come back to you, right? And Paul is saying in verse 17, he said, not because I desired a gift, but I desired fruit that may abound to your account, right? So he was saying, I accepted it, not because I needed it or I wanted it, but because you were willing to give it, and I know that if you gave it, then you're going to receive a blessing for it, right? And then he says, but I have all and abound. I am full, having received of the I'm a butcher this word, Epaphroditus, the things which were sent from you, an odor of a sweet smell, a sacrifice acceptable, well-pleasing to Elohim. But my Elohim shall supply all your needs according to his riches in glory by Messiah Yahusha, right? So, just another example there, because Paul understood this, and he knew that if they gave to him, they were going to receive something back, right? You can't outgive Elohim, right? You reap what you sow. When you give, you're planting a seed, right? Galatians 6:7 through 10. So it says, be not deceived. Elohim is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith. Right? So once again, talking about their doing good, and sowing. Right? Whenever you give something, it is virtually planting a seed that's going to come back to you 10 or 20 or 100-fold, right? Anyone can count the number of seeds in an apple, but it takes someone with vision and faith to be able to count the number of apples in a seed. So if you're living in the kingdom of Elohim, 90% of your thoughts will be about serving him, instead of 90% of your thoughts being about how to acquire and keep money. 90% of your thoughts will be about serving him, right? So, wait, what's this? I'm reading the comments here. I didn't see these. Sorry.
No worries.
Yes. So, why is it that giving to someone is lending to Elohim? Going back to Proverbs 19:17. And the answer is because man was made in the image of Elohim. Genesis 1:26 and 27. So giving to someone is essentially giving to Elohim, since man was made in Elohim's likeness. Giving to a properly structured ministry or assembly/church is also giving to Elohim, because the church is the body of Messiah, right? So that's how you give to Elohim, right? And that's why that when it says in Proverbs 19:17 that when you give, you're lending to Elohim, right? And Elohim is going to pay you back. Not necessarily in the way that you might think, because we don't know what's not on our radar screen. We don't know what we don't know, right? And what we think we want may not be the best thing for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, we will reap what we sow. So, therefore, giving to anyone else, an individual or an assembly/ministry, is actually giving to Elohim, as if giving it to him directly, because we can't directly give him something, right? We can't directly hand something to him and say, here you go, right? The only way to do that is, now back in the day, you would go to the tabernacle and you would give an offering to the Levites, because that's all they had. They didn't have their own inheritance, right? So you would go in and give an offering to the Levites back in the day. Of course, that structure is no longer taking place at the moment because of disobedience and so forth. We won't get into that, but so there's two kingdoms, right? The two kingdoms, the kingdom of Elohim and this kingdom of this earth curse system where Satan is actually the god of this world, right? And when Adam sinned, I know we've spoken on this several times in Shabbat talks, but when Adam sinned, he relinquished the authority over this earth to Satan, right? And Satan became the god of this earth. But we have two kingdoms that are side by side and overlapping, right? When Messiah says we must be in the world but not of it, what is he saying, right? Because the kingdom of Elohim is within us, right? And we have to figure out how to get out of Satan's kingdom and into Elohim's kingdom, right? And by default, we're going to be in one or the other. We can't. There's no middle ground there, right? And it's by activating faith through relinquishing physical things that we believe are sustaining us. If we want to prosper, what's that?
I was going to say real quick. So far, all the information that he's presented, does anybody have any questions? Right? I know we had a little bit of talk in the chat, but does anybody have any questions about what he said, or any of the scriptures that he brought out, or anything they'd like to share? All right.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You go first, sis.
Okay, I was gonna say one of the questions that I had that would help pertain to this main question is, when I look at the Messiah and all of the miracles that he performed, was always outward physical body healings, and I always wondered why. Like, so keep that in.
It wasn't always.
Okay.
A couple examples would be when when they were out fishing, and he said, "Oh, cast your net on the other side of the boat," and then they pulled in the net broke because they pulled up so much fish. That wasn't physical body healings. Or when Peter had to pay the taxes, they come to question him about taxes and everything, in order to accuse him and so forth. But when Peter had to pay the taxes, and they're like, "Well, why aren't your disciples paying?" And he told Peter to go fishing, and he pulled the money out the fish's mouth. Right, so that it wasn't always. Now, what it was very often, because that's what the main problems people had was, illnesses and so forth.
Okay, so I bring that up to talk about. In the beginning, you was like our faith. We have faith in the light switch and the chair, but we need to have this same faith. I would say sometimes it could be difficult because either because we're taught or experience or both, but we don't see these instantaneous miracles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we live in this system of God is sovereign. So even though I believe in him and this is what I desire, it may not happen. And then it may not happen for years later. But it seems like most of the stuff that's in the Bible, especially at Messiah's time, it just happened instantly. You got this centurion, right, who is not even the Hebrew, who he says, "Hey, do you believe?" "Yes, I believe." "All right, well, he's healed. Done."
Mm-hmm.
You know, where something as simple as people have back pain and toothaches and all of that. Some people you hear, I guess, with cancer and this and that, but it's not like it's gone the next day. You know, they I don't know. But
there actually have been instances of that as well, documented cases of cancer.
And
right,
but not just documented cases. Are we saying that these are documented cases of people who believed so hard in the Most High God? So it's not enough to be just documented cases. That's the part where you got to have that correlation.
Well, it's based on what you believe, because there's all kinds of psychosomatic responses that take place in the body just based on what you're believing. It causes reactions in the brain, which then causes chemical reactions in the body and affects it. Literally, a single thought in your mind affects every cell in your body. Right.
Talk about the cancer situation from Kevin Trudeau with the tincture. Remember? No,
I don't.
Okay, so this brother had cancer. His brother had cancer, and doctor said he only had, I forget how many months.
Yeah,
you see what I'm talking about? Yeah. So so he only had a few months to live.
Yep. I know exactly.
And he was like really like down and depressed about it, right? Like, oh man. So then he got to the point where I forget exactly what happened, where he started to think positive, and he started. Well, he took a medication because he came back to the doctor, and the doctor was like, "We got this new experimental drug that
it's very promising.
Very promising. They've done studies and tests on it, and in actuality, it was a placebo. It wasn't.
Well, it wasn't originally the first time. The first time it was an experimental drug, and it was So it was an experimental drug the first time he gave it to him, and the guy was completely healed. His cancer went away, and then the doctor found out later on that they had scrapped the drug because the studies showed no effect. And he's like, "Well, how come this guy has been cured if the studies showed no effect?" And then he was like, "Well, I'm not going to tell my patient, he's cured, so we'll just leave it at that."
Leave it at that, yeah.
And
then the guy comes back because the guy started to doubt again later in life, and ended up the cancer came back.
He looked it up online, and the cancer came back.
Yeah, he looked up online and found out about the drug that got scrapped because it didn't work.
And then the doctor was like, "Well, if it did work, then," and he was like, "Well, I wonder if it's a placebo effect." So he told him, he said, well, they've been working on a new form of it because the old one didn't work, but they're working on a new form of it. And he says this one's injectable and it's way better than the other one. He was like, oh, okay. So he injected him with some saline solution. It was complete placebo, and the guy's cancer went away. And this time it wasn't even the experimental drug; it was a complete placebo, and his cancer went away. And it stayed gone for a while. Then the guy looked up online again, found out that there is actually negative results from the drug, and that it was completely useless. And his cancer came back, and then he died a short time after. But twice he was completely healed because he believed it.
But do you hear what I said though? Because it's not about, because now what you were saying, that same argument would be used by an atheist. That same thing would be saying you don't need God. All you have to do is believe. Y'all, like, this kind of sounds like Smiling Joe now, right? Like, can we, if you threw in there and told me that this man has so much faith in the Most High God, then bam, like, I'm all for it. So, but it's stuff like this that I think contributes to what, someone, Messiah might call a lack of faith. Because we see people, we see atheists, we see the unrighteous, rich, every day driving around doing all kinds of stuff. We see that. We see people who are doubting, who are living supposedly prosperous and all this, but then you got us like, oh my God, I tithe and I go the extra mile and I'm still struggling. And so, we see what's that one thing that's in the Bible about this instantaneous healing, but then it seems like, well, our healing today comes years, if it does at all.
Well, we also have to understand that in today's culture, we've been programmed so much more than they were back then, and whatever programming they received back then, they were focusing a lot of time and effort on studying Scripture, right? Learning the Torah and so forth, right? And we don't get that. We go to school, we learn history and math and English and science and art and that kind of stuff. So and then on top of that, we get all of this. We get bombarded all the time with all this negative programming, where it causes a bunch of confusion, and we know that Elohim is not the author of confusion, right? So, where does that confusion come from? It's not coming from Elohim, right? So we've got to recognize that, hey, we didn't have the upbringing that they had back then. So the type of the amount of faith that even the most simple person back then would have had compared to the amount of faith that the most studied and believing person today would be able to have is on a whole other level. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I want to point out a scripture too as well, to add on to that. And it's Proverbs 24 verses 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
It says, "Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them, for their heart studieth destruction, and their lips talk of mischief." So, like, those individuals who we see who are clearly not following the Most High, clearly are atheists or whatever the case may be, they're living wickedly, living in the world, but they're successful, right? They have money, they have cars, they have big houses, or whatever we perceive to be wealthy or blessings, we see that they have those things. And we're instructed not to envy that. We're instructed to not envy what they have or want what they have, or to even be with them. And a lot of times we found ourselves getting caught up trying to play keeping up with the Joneses. And we realize that in an attempt to acquire what they have, we actually lose more of what we have. and we have the exact opposite effect. Rather than, instead of not worrying about the wicked, let them do them. If this wicked person next door to me becomes a millionaire, then that's his business. I'm not worried about it. I'm not looking at it like, why am I not a millionaire?
Yeah,
Elohim,
yeah,
I'm doing Bible study, I'm teaching, I'm doing ministry, I'm feeding the poor. Where's mine? Where's mine?
Because then you're putting off the lack and the desire to have something yourself is not having.
Sure. Yeah.
There's all
I can tell. Because 1 second, because I can tell you for sure. When I made the decision to separate from the military in November of 2022, I knew what that meant. It meant that I was potentially finna go without employment for a long period of time. I didn't know how long it would be, but I knew that I was potentially signing up for being unemployed for a good little minute, because I knew the situation with keeping the Sabbath and what I was gonna do and what I wasn't gonna do. But I still made the decision to do it. And even when they dropped the mandate in December and I had time to take it back and not separate and just stay in the military, I still stuck to my guns and was like, that I feel like this is a test, because why else would the mandate get lifted all of a sudden? So I was like, nope, but I already made the decision. So in that instance, like what Professor S was saying is, my fear of lack in terms of sustenance, provision, employment, all of that, I let it go. And it didn't happen right away. It's not like the day I separated from the military, I got this nice cushy job where all of my needs were met. You know, it took almost 6 full hard months, right? But looking back, I remember, you know, that throughout that entire time, it was happening all for my benefit. And I wasn't trying to, you know, get something special to happen to me. But, you know, when you operate in faith and you have that faith and you let go of that fear of lack, miraculous things happen. Whether they happen immediately or later on, or I might not even have gotten blessed financially at all. It could have been in the form of something else, right? I might have met like a really good individual and we grew and had a very strong friendship, and somebody whom I cherish came out of that situation. You know what I mean? You never know how it will come back. But when you let go of that fear, when you operate on faith, amazing things happen. But a lot of times what people do subconsciously is, when they do decide to give, right? When they finally do decide to the point where they want to give, they're not giving out of the fear of lack. They're giving because they feel as though they can go without it. It's not hurting them, right?
Yeah,
it's giving out of abundance in an example, right? If you got $10,000 sitting in your bank account and some homeless person walk up to you and ask you for $100, and you give him $100, are you really hurting? Did you really give, like in the manner in which the scriptures are saying that he read today? You know what I mean? You got 10K. What's $100 to you? Or if you feel like you're getting consistent income, I'm only using income as an example, not the overall. So don't just take this as me talking about money. But like, let's just say you have consistent income where, you know, every month you're bringing in $5,000 and your monthly expenses are only $3,000. So you have a $2,000 surplus every month. So you pay all your bills, you got $2,000 left, and you give everything that you have to someone or some organization. But you know, in the back of your mind, the very next month you're going to get $5,000 more. That's not giving out of, you know, that tapping into that key that he's talking about. Because you, in your mind, you're like, yeah, I'm losing.
It's not something you feel
is get it right back.
It's not
sustaining you. If you sacrifice something that you feel as though it's holding you up, right? Like you don't have
that's when you're
future
truly,
income.
That's
when you only have a little bit left.
Elohim.
Exactly. That's when you're tapping into it. A lot of times, people aren't like. I mean, the harsh reality of the matter is we don't have as much faith as we say we do or we think we do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the bottom, pretty much the bottom line about it is. But to get that faith, you have to work it out. You got to flex it like a muscle. You gotta use that faith, and then it'll get stronger. and stronger and stronger, and then you'll be able to do certain things. Like, but if you are trying to do certain things and it's not coming back, again, expect to come back, but don't worry about if it does or not. Because if you're expecting something to come back and you're expecting whatever to come back is to be that peace that sustains you, then you're not really operating fully in faith. I'm not saying you don't have any faith, but that faith just might not be completely where it needs to be in order for you to truly tap into that other kingdom that he's talking about.
And real quick, regarding the you know how we see like the evil people prospering, it's actually talked about in Ecclesiastes 7:15, where it pretty much says that a just man pretty much perishes in his righteousness, and the wicked man life is actually prolonged in his wickedness. Isn't that interesting? So these evil people, like politicians that live like 100 and they're still evil. It's like, and they're still in office, and there's, you know, they still have the evil. Like, how are they living so long and they're so evil? But it's literally covering it right there, saying that, you know, wicked people, yeah,
it's because they know certain secrets that they're hiding from everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. And they eat the right foods, and they have the clean stuff and the vegetables and the dirt, you know, and
then they feed
and the endocrine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We gonna go into all of that. They're gonna ban the channel.
Oh
yeah,
sure.
They definitely on that.
They have that 100%. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's already there. It's like in Ecclesiastes.
But so Marquita, to answer your question about the miracles that seemingly happen instantly with Messiah and throughout the Bible, but then now, even if we do get a miracle, it doesn't happen right away, and there's a lag and a time for a delay and time for us to shift into doubt and so forth, right? You know, with the Hebrews and the Israelites, they had grown up with this. They had experienced these things all their lives, you know, and been taught this their whole life. They weren't taught this bogus system that we're in now. And the same way with the Gentiles, right? So the Galatians, being Gentiles, Paul says to them, which he doesn't say to other Hebrews, because they would have the things, the manifestation of the miracle happen a lot sooner, even sometimes most of the time instantaneously, because they were raised in the faith, right? They grew up in the faith, so it was like second nature to them. It was like flipping a light switch. They didn't have to think twice about it. They're like, oh, of course, if I do that, then this is going to happen, right? Whereas people who were not raised that way, such as us today, or the Gentiles in Galatia, right? They didn't have that type of faith, so it had to be cultivated, and there was a lag, a delay before it happened. And that's why Paul says, I believe in Galatians 6:9 and 10, he says, and let us not be weary of well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Right? As we therefore have opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith. Right? And so, you know, people who were not raised in the faith and it's not second nature for them, there is in the back of their heads, oh, doubt and all this stuff. And that's not how you were raised, and all these different programs that we may not even be consciously aware of that we received as children by witnessing one thing or seeing some of this, or even something we saw on TV that we don't even remember consciously, but it's in the back of our mind saying, oh, yep, yeah, you know? So we come from a much different and tainted culture. We are coming from the earth-cursed system, right? And we're trying to get out of that system. Most of the people in Messiah's day at least had a foot in the kingdom of heaven. You know what I'm saying? Because they were raised that way. So they at least had a foot in the door. So whereas we, you know, the way we grew up, we didn't have that luxury. You know what I'm saying?
Even back then, it didn't necessarily guarantee you to have some right away. Like
Abraham,
for example, was 86 when he got the first, notice of you're gonna have children and you're gonna have descendants as numerous as the stars, right? And then he was 99 when Sarah took it upon herself to give him, Ishmael, right? But then he wasn't 100 until that promise that he got at 86 was fulfilled. So 14 years had went by. From the point where he was told that he would have a son from Sarah, and establish that covenant. 14 years went by before Isaac was even born. So
now you also have to recognize too that Abraham wasn't raised in belief. He was raised as his father was actually an idol maker, right? His father built idols for Nimrod.
Terah, right? Terah's name.
Terah was
Terah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Abraham wasn't even necessarily raised in that. So that's just an interesting correlation, I suppose.
What I personally noticed, like personal experience, when I've done like street evangelism, going out and just talking to literally random people, and this could be either believers or non-believers. It's not like one. But I have seen actually, I feel like more in unbelievers, which is interesting, to where you go up to them and ask if you could pray for them without even leading with like the gospel. If you see them like hurt or limping, or maybe they have some type of hey, can I pray for you? And they say, okay, pray for them, and either Jesus' name or Yahushua's name, and they get healed instantly. And then you see their eyes light up like, wait, what just happened? And then you leave with the gospel, and their minds are so open at that point, like, wow, I've been dealing with this for years, and I literally just got healed. Doctors can't even heal me. And I've seen believers where they're hurt, and you pray for them, they get healed, and vice versa. You pray for them, nothing happens, or maybe a day or two later, they wake up, and then they're healed, or it's just not meant to be at that time. So I've seen it all over the place, but I have seen it when you go out and do street evangelism. A lot of people actually do experience the Holy Spirit and getting healed instantly when you go to strangers and ask them if you can like pray for them and rebuke whatever's hurting them or plaguing them. Even I've seen people get out of wheelchairs like that, like literally seen that happen. So like when you're actually doing the work, I think it's you see more of that, that supernatural stuff when you're actually out there physically doing the work. And I know in other countries like Africa, they have way more supernatural experience than America. Like other countries, like American, our like you were saying, how we've been like conditioned. But over there, they're so open to that realm, the spiritual realms, like they see all kinds of stuff and get healings and dead rising and all that. They see
that's very interesting because Rob Skiba, he relayed when he was still alive. He relayed very similar experiences because he did missionary work for a long time, and he said that he would see all kinds of crazy supernatural stuff happen for people in other countries, especially Africa. But things like that would never happen around here. And in fact, a lot of the preachers around here would be like, oh, we don't believe in that. That all went away.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. It's like a lot of people. But, I think when you go out and do it, you actually will see some actual miracles. It even strengthens your faith, even though you have faith. But when you see it, somebody heal, you feel the Spirit activating you, and you see them happy, and then you can spread the gospel. Who healed? It wasn't me. It was our Savior that came down and died for our sins, the Messiah. Like, wow. I've been other faiths and nothing like this have ever happened. I've been Muslim and Buddhist and nothing like this have ever happened.
I'm gonna ask my wife to give a testimony. Go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, let her. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask my wife to come down here and give a testimony because it's so crazy how it happens.
Amen.
And it can be instant.
Yeah. Can be.
Hey, can you come down here real quick? Okay.
Aren't those like people in Africa, aren't they converted to Christianity and not necessarily law keepers? You said like the Rob Skiba folks.
Rob Skiba's a Torah observer, but
the people he's talking about.
Rob Skiba actually was not at the time that he was doing the missionary work. It wasn't until afterwards that he became convicted about keeping the Torah.
There's a lot of Ethiopian Jews, Ethiopian Yahudim that, they know all of that because they still keep the law. They have traditions, you know, where you see things originating from it. They still keep that.
Yeah.
So a lot of Ethiopians are, you know, true, you know, Yahudims, and some Jewish people that come from America to go, they're shocked and blown away. Like they have all that. You're like, wow, like how? So some of them are true Torah keepers.
But I'm a
Do you have to say their names?
No, you don't got to say their name. You could just give the example. So, this is my wife. I wanted her to share something with y'all. Y'all heard me call her, so ain't no pre-prepping and nothing like that. This is straight, pure, unadulterated truth right here. So
put her on screen.
I mean, it's funny that you say that, babe, because I actually have 2 testimonies like that.
I will go ahead.
Because remember the first one?
All praise to the Most High.
At the retreat and
yeah, put her on screen, bro.
And I got downstairs.
To the mic.
Oh, can y'all not hear her?
Just barely.
I hear just
I'm sitting my
closer to the mic.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay, there you go.
So I don't exactly know what you guys are talking about, but he told me to share a testimony about something that happened recently. And since he said to share that, it dawned on me that I actually had another testimony. And actually, Joel was actually there for that first one. We had a retreat in, I believe it was Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And we had stayed at a friend's house before, like the day before. You know, we didn't want to drive all the way through. And she stays in Georgia. So it was kind of like drive halfway and then drive a little more. So that morning, before driving to Gatlinburg, I woke up and we went to walk downstairs to get the kids up, get them ready. But as I went to step down on like one of the steps to go down, like I just slipped and fell down the stairs. And of course my life flashed before my eyes. I was like, oh my God, like, ah. So I knew it hurt. Like it was actually my right hip and it hurt so bad. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna deal with it. I'm gonna get through it. I didn't realize how bad it hurt till the next day after we were, in Gatlinburg, and I was like, oh my God, like I feel like I could barely walk. I was slightly limping and I was like hobbling along every time we walked somewhere. And one of our friends, she had some CBD cream. And she's like, why don't you try it? And mind you, I don't smoke. I don't do any of that stuff, but I'm a big believer in like natural medicines. And I believe strongly that CBD can help with a lot of things. And because I was in so much pain, I was like, you know what? If she's saying it's going to help and it's not going to get me high, then I'm definitely down for it. So, she gave it to me, rubbed it on. And when I say instantaneously took the pain away and never came back. But I'm one of those, I don't just rely on things too. I always pray. So of course, as I rubbed it on, I prayed and I said, Lord, let your will be done with this, because the pain I'm in and what my body's feeling like. And it literally, like in a matter of minutes, like less than 3 minutes, the pain was gone. And this was from a fall down the stairs that had me limping and just like felt like I could barely move, roll over in bed, and I was walking normal in minutes. So that was the first one. But recently,
wait a minute, before you go on, I'm not hearing where that is total faith in God and that was instant healing. Like, I'm just not hearing that as it relates to the scripture today.
Okay, so I can tell you that, like I said, when I went to go put the cream on, I'm like I said, I'm one of those. I don't just, some people say, "Oh, you're feeling sick, go drink some tea." Like, I believe wholeheartedly in everything that we do. We have to pray. You have to believe. You have to have faith. And if you don't, I hate to tell you, it's just not. It's not going to happen. Do I believe that the medicine absolutely, helped? Absolutely. But I'm one of those that I believe wholeheartedly that my prayer and my faith in the prayer that I made when I chose, because I could have relied and said, "Oh, well, I hope this works. I'm believing the medicine is going to do this." But for me, it was like, "No, God, like, I need you to do this for me. If this is the avenue that it's going to be through, then great, wonderful. But I'm trusting you to do this for me." So do I feel like it was 50-50 in that case? Absolutely. Because there was something there that was actually being used. This next one that I'm getting ready to tell you. So recently we were
Wait, sorry, can I add one more thing to that too? So it just reminded me when you said you put the cream on and you prayed. There was this doctor, he's a naturopathic doctor. Mm-hmm. And he has, supplements, but they're all like natural, none of the chemicals in it. And what I really like about him is that even he's explaining, even on the bottle, like the directions, take 2 tablets, whatever it says. Part of the directions is you take this, but also you pray, because it's not you act, because Yah put this on earth for us to use, like herbs, supplements, teas. This is his creation. But some people, they just strictly rely on the medicine without giving him his grace and glory. So I do believe that is how we're supposed to do it. Like, you eat fruit or vegetables or take medicine. Yeah, you take it, but you say, "Thank you, Father, for you. This is your creation, and you're healing me and allowing this to work through me." And I do believe that actually like magnifies and helps that, because you're giving him grace versus just relying on like the creation. A lot of people worship the creation versus the creator type deal. So Correct. That's just something that made me think when you said that a doctor, he actually has that, because he's a believer and he has it on his like supplements. Like, you pray, you take this and you pray. That's part of the healing. It doesn't work without that. So for me, that reminded me of that doctor that said that.
And to add to what you just said, mind you, I grew up in a home with a mother who is, to this day, you can ask my husband, because I use a lot of the natural homeopathic, remedies that I grew up on in our home now. But my mother is all natural. Like, I'm talking every plant, every herb, every spice you can imagine. And even if you can't imagine it, she possibly knows about it, and she'll tell you about it, and she'll tell you how to use it and how it works. The problem is a lot of people we live in America. It's Western medicine. That means not preventative health care. It's reactive. So I'm going to wait till I get sick, and then now I want something to heal me. And the problem is everyone's like, now, well, I don't want to go to the doctors, and I don't trust the medicine that they're going to give me, and it's possibly going to give me side effects. Well, if that was the case, you should have been taking all of the herbs and the spices and all of the natural remedies before that, because this is the situation. Western medicine, those medications that they give us from the pharmaceuticals, those are supposed to help you almost instantaneously, right? The problem is, once again, there's side effects. It has effects on our bodies, our organs. Natural medicine. Sorry?
Oh, they're totally toxic. The pharmaceuticals, they're toxins.
Absolutely.
And the thing is forcing your body into doing something that it wouldn't naturally do.
Correct. And the thing is if you put your body in a state of preventative health care, meaning you every day take your nutrients, your vitamins, your spices, your herbs, not only are you preventing the health issues, but if something does try to attack your body, as you continue to take all of those natural spices, herbs, remedies, it fights it off quicker. If I get sick today and I start drinking everything healthy and natural, my body's not going to take to it immediately. I'm not going to heal as quickly as I would if I did something over the counter or that the doctor prescribed me, because natural medicine has to be in your system, and it needs time to work. And that's why you're supposed to take it just every day as part of your everyday natural routine. So that way, when something does try to attack your body, it just doesn't have time to hit the way it would if you weren't, right? So, but that's why everything that I do, I don't care what it is. Like when it comes to health, when it comes to sicknesses, illnesses, if I have something that I can use, I don't care if it's tea, I don't care if it's a cream, I don't care what it is. If I can use it, absolutely, it's there for me to use. I'm going to use it, but I'm always going to add prayer with it. But recently, to not take up too much time, we didn't have anything. We were at that same friend's house, and out of nowhere, I don't know what happened. I was sitting on the couch, and my husband, as a matter of fact, it was Shabbat, and my husband was doing Shabbat talk with you guys, and she was doing some kind of like live stream or something or whatever, and I was sitting on the couch in the living room, and I felt this pain on my right side, and I almost believe it was my like sciatic nerve. And I went to go stand up to throw something in the trash, and I couldn't put the weight on my leg. Like I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know how I was walking, but I was like sliding across the floor and dragging my foot under my weight. And I don't know if you guys have seen me, but I'm only 5'4", about 240 pounds. I'm pretty round and heavy. So I just kept thinking to myself, how do I make it back to the couch? Because I was intent on making it to the trash can, and I made it. But then I was like, I can't make it back. But somehow I made it back, and I sat down, and I was like massaging my hip, and I was just like, God, like, I was like, Lord, I need you to heal whatever this is. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's feeling this way, but I just need you to heal me. Sat on the couch. My husband was done with Shabbat talk with you guys. She was done. They came out. They sat at the dining table. I got up from the living room couch to go walk towards them, and I didn't, like, I could feel what felt like residual pain, but it didn't feel as intense. I got up and I walked as I walked towards the table, the pain just got so intense again. And I was like, what in the world is, like, I absolutely, again, but it was worse than even the first time. So I told my husband, and he was like, well, what's going on? And I'm asking him to beat my hip, hit my thigh. Like, I'm one of those, like, pain brings healing for me normally. So, and he's hitting it, and I'm like, I tried to put the weight on my leg, and I was like, I just can't do it. And so our friend told her daughter, and she's like 3, maybe 4. And she was like, why don't you pray for Miss Ebony's leg? And I was like, you know what? Let's go, baby. And one thing I have learned.
Oh wow, 3 or 4 saying that. I love that.
Yes. Well, her mom told her, why don't you go and pray for Miss Ebony's leg? And as soon as she said it, I was like, yes, absolutely. And I've always known that children are so, like, when it comes to prayer and how they believe and what they speak, especially when they're that young, they haven't yet been tainted the way older children, with the doubt and the, you know what I mean? So I was like, absolutely, let's go. She put her 2 little hands on my thigh and said a prayer that lasted, no lie, all but maybe 15 seconds. And I closed my eyes, and when she said amen, I said, I receive it. I said, in Jesus' name, yes, I'm healed. And let me tell you something. I went to go take a step. There was no pain. Amen. I mean, gone. And to this day, like, and the funny thing was, is I'm not even going to lie, there was a piece of me that was like, it was like, because I had to actually leave after that and like walk down a set of stairs. I was like, this leg better not give out. But I was like, you know what, devil, I bind and rebuke you. Because she prayed it, she believed it, and I believe it. This pain is gone. And it was. And since that day, I haven't had that pain again. Like, it was instantaneous. Amen. But it didn't shock me either, because it wasn't the first time in my life that, I've seen with my own eyes or even received personally, a miracle or, so for me, or healing. So for me, it was just like, you know what? Thank you, Lord, that you would use this small soul to heal me, and I just, told her mom, I'm like, just keep encouraging that in her, because that, we're all given gifts. And I was like, when a child is given the power of healing, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. But when you don't foster the gifts that your children are given, or you don't recognize them, as they get older, they can lose it. My mother always taught me, if you don't use the gifts God gives you, He can take them. He can say, "Oh, well, you're not using it," so But yeah, so that was my testimony of instantaneous healing.
I didn't even know it got worse again. When you
It was worse. It was worse when I came to y'all.
I didn't know that it like died down, and then when you got over to us, it got worse, like worse than before.
Yeah.
I just remember you being in pain, and then they're praying for you, and then it got better. So that's why when you was
I'm gonna
like,
pass them back, y'all.
It got lifted. I'm like, wait, you. And you was like, no. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you. But we were just talking about faith, tapping into faith and stuff, and so that's what tapping into the two kingdoms is what Professor S is covering tonight, and so that's why I thought that your testimony would be very relevant.
One thing I want to tell you guys, I can't hear y'all, so if anyone says anything, but one thing I know, faith is very hard, especially sometimes when you don't grow up, whether it be in the church or just honestly in an environment where you're taught to have faith. In my case, I was, born and raised in a home with a mom that, like, I'm telling you, I don't know how we made it, but I mean, I know now, obviously. What I'm saying is, when I was growing up, it was just like, how in the world is all this happening? Because my mother never hid anything from us, but she always made sure to let us know God's doing this for us. He's keeping us. I trust Him. I have faith. And it wasn't just in that. I mean, my husband could tell you how many, I've told him how many stories where we've had to have faith and angels and just all kinds of things, right? But the one thing I can tell you is, the more you practice your faith, the stronger it will get. And in the beginning, sometimes you may feel like, oh, I'm just a little hesitant. But the more you see it working in your life, and even the people around you and the people you're praying for and in contact with, it helps it grow. So don't discount where you may feel like you're at currently when it comes to your faith.
It's so crazy. You wouldn't even, because you wouldn't hear it, and y'all know she ain't even been on the panel. She been upstairs. She ain't hear a word we just said. She didn't hear a word we said, and literally, we was just talking about that.
Just talking about it.
How some individuals in the scriptures got like their miracles instantaneously, while in modern day we see a lot of miracles happen. Now they do still happen instantaneously in some cases, but there are some cases where they don't seem like they happen right away, or a long period of time happens. And Professor S had brought it up that, and during that time they were taught faith. They were taught the scriptures. They grew up in that environment and that culture that cultivated all of that. And then I mentioned, like, you got to exercise faith like a muscle. And literally, you come after you get a testimony, you literally just said that, and it was like right on point with everything that we just mentioned. And you didn't hear a word we said. You didn't hear a word we said.
Akeem, could you thank Ebony for me? I really needed to hear that. If you could just thank Ebony for me.
Yeah.
It's Cindy.
Cindy said thank you. She really needed to hear that.
Oh, absolutely.
I love you, sis.
She loves you.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much further you had on this portion of it, because I know
not much more. Not much more. In fact, that was right about to the end.
Of the whole thing.
No, just what I was going to go through tonight.
Okay, cool. Because I know we're getting past 10 o'clock, so
I know. Yeah, it's getting a little gone a little long. See, I told you there was no way we were going to fit this whole study.
Oh yeah, and I'm totally good. We can continue this next week.
Yeah. So, if we want to because Elohim does want us to be prosperous, right? He even says through the Torah that it's him who gives us the ability to gain wealth and to be prosperous, right? And he wants us to be prosperous. That's why there's so many principles in the Torah that are there that have no other purpose other than to benefit us. In fact, it's really what the whole Torah is about, is benefiting us, right? But if we want to be prosperous and have a prosperous life that is filled with shalom, we must leave the earth-cursed kingdom and get into the kingdom of Elohim, right? And these two kingdoms, they overlap, right? We have to be, as I said before, we have to be in the world, but not of it, right? And so although we have to be in this physical world that's cursed, we don't have to be of it, right? And we should not be of it, rather. The kingdoms overlap. They're within each other simultaneously, but you can only see with your eye, you can only see the cursed system, right? You can only see the broken down, corrupted system of this earth, because we can only see it with our physical eyes, right? So we must walk by faith and not by sight, right? And I'm gonna end it right here real fast with this last scripture, and then we can close up this session of the study. But the scripture is 2 Corinthians 5:7, and it says, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." So the thing is, if we were to look at giving a gift, which is something that activates faith, right? Our faith is activated when we take physical actions, right? If you just look at that carnally, once I've given something away, I no longer have it, right? But energetically, spiritually, you not only still have it, but you get more also when you do that, because you're relinquishing the fear of lack once you do that. How does one increase faith according to the scriptures? I will get into that, because that is very important, and that's part of what I'm going to get into is next week, is how to increase your faith, and how each little victory you have is a stepping stone that allows you to have more and more faith along the way. So I am going to get into that, and how to walk by faith and not by sight. I'll actually leave it with this, right? Let me pull up this scripture real fast, because this is a very important scripture that tells a little bit more about what faith is.
So while he's pulling that up, oh, you got it already?
Not yet.
Okay. While he's pulling that up, I'm gonna go ahead and put this up on the screen so you guys can take your screenshots. Next week's Torah portion is Genesis chapter 37, verse 1 through chapter 40, verse 23. The book of Amos, chapter 2, verse 6 through chapter 3, verse 8. And then you also have the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verses 1 through 6. And also in that same chapter, verses 16 through 25. So I'll leave this up here for you guys to either write it down, take a picture, snapshot, and all of that. But yeah, go ahead, brother.
And so here it is. It's Hebrews 11, verse 1. It says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." Mm-hmm. So that's really what faith is, because we can't see the bigger picture. We can't see what's taking place all around us that we're unaware of, because we don't know what we don't know, right? But by having that faith, you have the evidence of it, and it is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, right? So that's really what faith is. And when you believe, not simply just intellectually in your mind, but when you have enough belief, like the definition of faith that we read earlier, that it is with the implication that that action based on that belief is going to follow, right? So without the action, no matter how much you can intellectually believe something, without action based on it, see, like back to the chair analogy, right? If I intellectually believe that a chair can support my weight, but I'm too scared to actually sit on it, then it does no good. The chair becomes useless because
faith without works is dead.
Yeah. It becomes useless because no matter how much I believe it, if I'm not willing to actually put my trust in it to sit down on it, then it's not going to be able to support me. And it's the same thing with Elohim. If we don't put our trust in Him that He can support us, then how can He support us? Right? We're back to toiling and living by the sweat of our brow. Right?
Absolutely. Man, that was good, bro.
Oh, thanks.
That was good stuff, man.
That's why he's
I know where you were. I did not know where you were going with it. But then when you started talking, it seemed a little familiar because I remember you sending me that video from that one pastor who was kind of talking about the two kingdoms a little bit.
Yeah, that's part of where I got it from. I actually, so I remember that's always been like something I watch at least once a year just to kind of refresh myself on it. But there was this other pastor that I had not even heard about that I heard him talking about the same thing. And he was talking about the kingdoms and stuff, while at the same time I was listening to another audio, and the dude in the audio was talking about virtually the same thing. And it was just all coming together. And I was like, man, I got to put together a study on this, So,
yep. Yeah. Look at how the Holy Spirit has been moving. All the connections and just everything, man. All praises to the Most High.
Yep. Because it's from Him. Every good and perfect gift comes from Him. So,
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Anybody got anything before we get ready to close out? Anybody? Anything from the lesson? Questions, comments, concerns, input?
No, I think it was good. It was needed. Just because like I know all of us can use work on our faith, build that muscle. Because at times I know we have doubt and that's not going to happen, or I don't know. So I think that was good to just reinforce. And hear your wife's testimony. Just having that reinforcement and rejuvenation, like faith. That's increased our faith, and we can do this and move mountains.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Okay, I'll say one last thing before we close out. Another thing to do, another thing to think about, right? To put on your radar is like I said, faith is like a muscle, right? You got to work the muscle out, and that muscle will grow. But also associate yourself with people that have what you want, right? Like for me, for example, long before this year, that same friend that my wife was talking about, when I say this sister lives on faith, the way I've been living the last year or a little less than a year, she's been living like that since I've known her, and I've known her at least 5-6 years, right? So seeing how this sister operates and how she moves with such faith, and she just knows that no matter what happens, it's gonna work out and it's gonna come to her benefit. It was something that was like, it was crazy to me. It was like, okay, I get it. We need to have faith, right? But what you talking about is crazy. Are you? What do you mean you don't have XYZ or you're not doing XYZ? Are you serious? And no, she's like, no, seriously. And I'm like, I would have so much anxiety living like that. And she's like, no, actually, it's pretty peaceful.
It's actually liberating.
And I'm like, what?
It's free.
And I couldn't fathom it. I couldn't fathom it until all of this stuff recently happened, and I had to hit her up and say, sis, I totally and completely understand where you're coming from. And it was watching her and spending time with her and seeing her or hearing her testimony and seeing her go through things and come out the other end that helped me and planted that seed in me to help me exercise my faith and grow my faith. So I say that to say, if you feel like your faith isn't where you want it to be or need it to be, surround yourself with people who have more faith than you, right? Surround yourself with people who have what you feel like you're lacking. And not just with faith, but anything like spiritual and good, right? Because that's going to drive and push you. If you're trying to go to the gym, you're trying to get bigger, right? And you going by yourself and you look over and you see somebody that's bigger than you or they're physically at whatever your goals are, reach out and be like, hey, can I work out with you sometime? And then work out with them. And then they can help you get to where they are. You know what I mean? And you're gonna reach your goal. It's the same thing with faith or with anything, whether it's prayer, faith, scripture reading, studying, research, whatever the case may be. Surround yourself with individuals that can help you and inspire you and encourage you to hit whatever the goal is. But with that being said, family, for those of you guys watching at the house, again, if you like the content, make sure you comment below, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See it down at the bottom of the screen. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate you. And with that being said, family, nobody else has anything left. Professor S, you wanna close this out?
And just Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thanks for watching. I hope this study is enlightening and informative. I hope that, and I believe that by the end of however long it takes, whether it takes 2 or 3 or 4 weeks to complete the whole thing, and the whole picture is put together, I hope that it is a tremendous blessing for everyone. So yeah, thanks for checking out Shabbat Talk, and we'll see everyone next week on Shabbat Talk.
Shabbat
Shalom, family.
Shalom,
everyone.
Thanks, Professor.
Shabbat Shalom, family.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We love you. We appreciate you. You already know.
All that I have is all I need. Until I have more, what's mine is for me. I'm happy to say that I'm never in need. I limit my wants because they make me compete. They say, you good? I say, yes. How have you been? I say, blessed. They say, I come up on some hard times. Did you got me? Say, less. I'm just cut from a different cloth. You can't stitch me to any garment. I look on half a direction while people trusting in garment. I earned my stripes and I wore them like old Adidas. So when my soul is fragile and worn like older sneakers, I pour my thoughts on wax and you blaring them over speakers. Of course, I will be fine. I got faith like them old believers. Believe me, I'm not conceited. I know the Creator sees me. With Him backing me, these problems like breakfast, they over easy.
Making sure I give all praises to the top. Bold as a lion, young David with a rock.
All praise to the top. Whipping like I run it from the cops. I ain't gotta worry about no ops. Young David, I stay with the rock. I'm blessed. All praise